What the Mayan calendar says is that time, as you and I have always known it, actually ended in July of 1992. And between July of 1992 and December of the year 2012, you and I are experiencing the interface, a transition point between two kinds of time as they are defined by the light received upon the Earth, tying back to the photon belt. During that time, the Mayans were so specific about this period in time that they even had a name for this time. They called it no time. And they said those who would live this interface period between the time that's always been and the time that is yet to be, those who would live this time would be living the time of no time. And that it would take a very, very powerful being, a very special being, a being capable of remembering and focusing and holding the focus of the nature and the intent of their life purpose to live during this transition time. So the Mayan calendar, 18,000 years old, points to these days, to this time in history. Why are these calendars all pointing to now? What is the trigger that is allowing this shift, allowing a change of some kind to happen according to these calendars as we know them now? Well, to really understand what this process is all about, all of the phenomenon, all of the unprecedented and outrageous things that we're seeing happen for which there are no reference points, to really understand the continuity and the related nature of these events, I believe that it is key to begin to view the Earth through the eyes both of the ancient traditions and the language of our modern science. It's the marriage, the union of those traditions that allow us the understanding and the wisdom to move forward through this unprecedented time in history. So as we go to the Earth, just for a few moments, this will look like maybe like Science 101, just for a couple of moments. I'll ask you to consider this. You may have done this experiment at some point when you were in school. If you didn't, you can do it at home on your own. You can go to any hardware store, take a bar of iron, and wrap a conductor around that iron, copper wire, a certain direction, and pass electricity through that wire in one direction. And what will happen is the iron bar develops a phenomenon known as polarity. It has a north and a south pole. Okay? When the electricity is shut off, the polarity goes away. It is the flow of electrons, now this is important, the flow of electrons in a circular fashion around the iron that produces the fields of the magnetics. Okay? Now if you take that same iron bar with the same configuration and pass electricity in the opposite direction. Okay, so we're just passing electricity in the opposite direction. Electrons moving in a circular fashion around the iron in the opposite direction, we still have a north and a south pole. Look what's happened. The poles have reversed. What was once north becomes south, and what was once south becomes north. That concept is a beautiful metaphor for precisely what is happening on Earth in our world right now. Until recently, when we looked at a cross-section of the Earth, we believed that the Earth looked very similar to what you're seeing here. This is a cutaway diagram that was made back in the early 1990s, and we're seeing the crust as the blue portion, the thin layer of the crust on the Earth, the thicker mantle, and the yellow and the red, the outer and the inner cores of the Earth. Within just the last few months, what we've discovered is that even this image now is obsolete, as we've discovered that the center core of our Earth is not a sphere at all, that it is crystalline in nature, following the form of a platonic solid, an ancient form that we know as the dodecahedra. It is approximately 98% iron. So if you'll think back to the little demonstration that we did just a few moments ago of the copper wire wrapped around the iron bar, electrons passing through that wire in a circular fashion around the iron generate the magnetic fields. Well, when I was studying geology to become a geologist back in late 1970s, one of the big mysteries was, where do these magnetic fields come from on the Earth? We knew they were there. Where did they come from? What the ancient texts have told us, and what we now know, have been able to demonstrate, is that these magnetic fields result from the same metaphor as the electrons passing around the copper wire and the iron bar. Earth rotates. If you look at a model of the Earth, here's our Earth. Earth rotates about an axis. Okay, and in that rotation, what is happening is, to be very clear about the mechanism, is that the overall rotation is occurring, and within that, the mantle inside the Earth rotates at a different speed, and the outer crust rotates at a different speed, and the inner crust, the inner core rotates at a different speed, and they are all rotating simultaneously at varying rates. In that rotation, what you have is essentially electrons moving around iron, the iron cores of the Earth. And it is this rotation of the Earth that generates the very powerful magnetic fields that we're discussing